Hi, welcome. This is another screencast. Somebody mentioned that they liked the review sheet, so I thought I'll just record me talking my way through the review sheet, and if you want to listen to it, you can. So here we go. This is all of the anterior pituitary hormones. Don't forget there are the two that come from the posterior pituitary, but their regulation is not quite as complicated. So we have 5 different hormones or group of hormones that we're going to be talking about, all come from the anterior pituitary. The first is adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH. Its release is stimulated by CRH, or corticotropin releasing hormone. So this comes from the hypothalamus. So when the hypothalamus senses stress, it releases CRH. Then CRH stimulates the anterior pituitary to release ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. ACTH is going to stimulate the adrenal cortex, which will, in response, release cortisol. And we're not going to worry about what cortisol does at this point. So cortisol gets released into the bloodstream, it goes everywhere and does what it's supposed to do. When it makes its way back to the hypothalamus in sufficient quantities, it blocks the release of CRH from the hypothalamus. And that's the signal to the hypothalamus that you've got enough cortisol, and then the hypothalamus stops releasing corticotropin releasing hormone, and then the pituitary stops releasing adrenocorticotropic hormone. So in the absence of CRH from the hypothalamus, the adrenal cortex shuts off. Then we have luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, most of whose effects we are not going to worry about right now. Collectively, they are referred to as the gonadotropins because they stimulate the gonads. They are under the control of gonadotropin releasing hormone. This comes from the hypothalamus. So at some point in time, you enter puberty and your hypothalamus decides that it's time for your gonads to start doing what they're supposed to do. So the hypothalamus will release GnRH, or gonadotropin releasing hormone, which will stimulate the release of gonadotropins from the anterior pituitary. The gonadotropins target the gonads. They cause a lot of things to happen, but for now we're just going to say they cause the release or secretion of testosterone and estrogen, your male and female gonadal hormones. These hormones circulate through the bloodstream, do a whole lot of different things, but when they get to the hypothalamus monitors their levels and regulates how much GnRH it's going to put out accordingly. And it's not always positive feedback, it's not always negative feedback like it would be with CRH. And this is because the female reproductive cycle is a little bit more complicated than a simple negative feedback loop. So for now, just know that gonadal hormones affect the output of gonadotropin releasing hormone from the hypothalamus. Alright, then we are on to the anterior pituitary hormone called TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone. I should have typed that out down there, but I didn't. So thyroid stimulating hormone is under the control of TRH, which stands for TSH releasing hormone. So when the hypothalamus decides that you need some thyroid hormone, it releases TRH. TRH stimulates the anterior pituitary, and then the anterior pituitary produces thyroid stimulating hormone. This stimulates the thyroid and causes the thyroid to release thyroid hormones. And we'll talk about them at a different point in time. So then the thyroid hormones get released, they circulate throughout your bloodstream and do what thyroid hormones do. When they reach the hypothalamus and the pituitary in sufficient quantities, they block the release of TRH, the releasing hormone, from the hypothalamus, and TSH, the anterior pituitary hormone. So thyroid hormones negatively feed back on both the hypothalamus and the pituitary. It makes them a little different. All right, now we're on to growth hormone. Growth hormone is under the control of two different hormones. The one that we're going to talk about first is growth hormone releasing hormone, or GHRH. So when the hypothalamus decides you need to grow, it releases GHRH. GHRH stimulates the release of growth hormone from the anterior pituitary. Growth hormone targets many of the cells in your body. And it has, as we say, direct effects and indirect effects. So when growth hormone hits some of your tissues, like adipose tissue, it causes fat breakdown. The energy from that fat is then used to produce more glucose. This is called gluconeogenesis. So you're increasing blood glucose levels without using up your carbohydrate stores, which your body is protective of. The other thing that growth hormone causes is the release of proteins called insulin-like growth factors. Those come out of the liver. So growth hormone hits the liver, insulin-like growth factors come out. When the insulin-like growth factors hit muscle and skeleton, you get the indirect effects of growth hormone, which is protein synthesis in your muscles and mitosis in bone and cartilage. Elevated levels of growth hormone and insulin-like growth hormone are going to, I missed a D there, feedback on the hypothalamus. This time they are going to cause the hypothalamus to produce an inhibitory hormone called GHIH. I should put that up here. So let's just do that now. GHIH. There we go. So after you got enough growth hormone, GHIH gets released by the hypothalamus and blocks the release of growth hormone from the anterior pituitary. Last but not least is prolactin. There are two hypothalamic hormones that regulate the release of prolactin: PRH, prolactin releasing hormone, and PIH, prolactin inhibiting hormone. So these regulate the release of prolactin from the anterior pituitary. When prolactin leaves the anterior pituitary and arrives in the mammary glands, it stimulates the mammary glands to produce milk. And the way it is regulated at the level of your hypothalamus is that your hypothalamus just monitors your pregnancy status. If you're not pregnant or you're not nursing, then your hypothalamus is releasing PRH. Once you become, PIH, totally screwed that up. If you're not pregnant, your hypothalamus is inhibiting your anterior pituitary from producing prolactin. If you are pregnant, then your hypothalamus is made aware of that, and it starts producing prolactin releasing hormone, which stimulates the release of prolactin from the anterior pituitary. I hope that all makes sense. I hope that helps, and that everybody crushes all of the endocrine questions on the exam. That's it. Bye.